What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live Pin the Gas podcast on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. I hope everybody's weekend is as proper mega as you guys are. I got a special podcast today. And this one is basically where to talk about how to avoid getting scammed by other leather companies from around the world, right? It's a big topic. It's a hot topic. It's been going on for a long time, and we're here to discuss and tell all things about it. But before we get into this episode, it is sponsored by Next Level Financial. Take control of your financial future. Get your complimentary financial analysis today by Seth Starnes. And as always, and I tell everybody this, Mike and Robert, don't spend your hard-earned money on an off-the-rack suit. For 90% of it, it's not going to fit you correctly. When you have a suit that does not fit you correctly, man, it causes all kinds of issues on the motorcycle, and off the motorcycle, right? My recommendation, you guys already know the deal. Go to bisontrack.com, sign up, get your full custom suit that's tailored, measured specifically for you. Love yourself, treat yourself. It's 2025, guys and girls. Forget the off-the-rack suits. Take that off-the-rack suit you got right now, make it into a purse or a cool backpack or something, or give it to one of your buddies that don't have one, right? So bisontrack.com. You heard it here first. Well, you hear it here all the time, but let's go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor today to sit down with my man, Robert and Michael, man. Robert's obviously, you guys know Bison, and Michael is AGV Sports Group. So gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Chris.
Good to be here.
The honor is all mine, gentlemen. It really is. So, listen, this has been a topic me and you, all three of us had discussed this, have been in the works about talking about putting this together, man. So I just want to jump head in first. There's a lot of, I get hit up. I just got hit up, and I just showed Michael as we're sitting down. Somebody just hit me up. Hey, I see you're into motorcycles. We do leathers and manufacturers and all this stuff, right? And it happens to me all the time. I know it happens to Robert, and Mike's been in the game Mike's been in the game. He is the game, right?
Right.
He is well familiar and diverse in his whole situation. So, listen, just tell everybody a little bit about your guys' story and the whole situation of what's going on with the getting hit up all the time by getting scammed.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because on paper, Michael and I are direct competitors. Honestly, AGV Sport is a well-known name in the industry, been around for decades. And Michael contacted me pretty recently. I mean, a couple months ago now, a month and a half ago. And he said,
6 weeks.
Yep. And he said, "Hey, Rob, I've kind of seen some of the blogs and videos that you put out about the Pakistani leather industry and kind of what's going on." And he goes, "Man, isn't it wild what's happening with the counterfeit products? Because that's a challenge that I have had and, had to overcome as we broke into this industry, and we continue to fight it." And one of the most common things that you talk about, Chris, when you get hit up by these manufacturers, Michael can speak to this. He probably has 5 to 10 a week, contact him. It's insane how many of them there are out there. And what they send you'll say, okay, send me some examples of your work, or maybe they're not even solicited to do so. They'll just they'll just pick dump, they'll send you 50 photos. And what you'll find is that 45 of those 50 photos are Dainese or Alpine Stars or Revit or AGV Sport or 4SR, and they don't make those products. They're just making a glove or a suit, and they're putting this name on it to get it out there. And my response to those is always, if that's the way you are approaching me to earn my business, then we're done. It's the problem is that, 9 out of 10 times that's what they're doing. Very few manufacturers that approach us this way are making their own branding and their own gear and standing behind it. They're trying to counterfeit. So anyway, Michael reached out to me. We've been talking a lot back and forth, and Michael has been doing a ton of due diligence. I'll let him speak to this, of course, but just trying to create a list of these companies, and I'll use that in quotations because they're just, they're counterfeits that are creating this scam gear and putting out there, and then trying to figure out a course of action that we can go through to help eliminate this and protect people. Because what's happening is you're buying something that is made to protect you. It's a safety item, and what you're receiving is not a safe item. And I can tell you, when I first started racing, I had to buy a back protector, and I bought a Dainese, backpack style hard shell back protector. And when I got it, it was a knockoff. I ordered it off eBay, and I was like, oh, this one's cheap, great. And I mean, you could take the thing, and it was just like this folder. I could, it was it would pass tech because it looked real, but there's nothing to it. And so thankfully, I recognized it was fake and didn't wear it. But a lot of people don't understand this. And I see it all the time, even in the paddock, even at like club racing level. I'll see somebody and I can spot it. And I'm sure Michael can too. You spot it from 20 feet away. That's not a real Alpine-Star suit. And then you get up close and you're like, I would not wear that on the track. So anyway, that's where we're at. We just thought this would be an interesting topic. You get two people that are in the industry. We see a lot of it. We kind of know the ins and outs of it, especially Michael. It's been really awesome, getting to know him and visiting with him. And so I'm excited to have this convo on Pin the Gas today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Robert, you'd said that I probably get 5 a week. I actually get between 10 and 15 per day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But, between our different email accounts and 17 different Facebook accounts and Twitter and Pinterest and, all the different accounts, I mean, it's Instagram. We're just it's overwhelming. It's just
a never ending stream, right?
But, I would say that 90% of these sources, these are not companies. These are private individuals that may have worked at a company. They may have a friend. They may be a family member. But they have a laptop computer and internet connection is basically 90% of them. 10% of them, they have some access to an actual, facility, but most of them are just laptop warriors. So, and that means that if you buy, you are in connection with one person and 10 different people bought 10 different suits, they could literally come from 10 different actual factories or 5 different ones, because when they get the order, they're shopping that around depending on who has availability to make it. So one suit might be okay, and the next one the leather might be good, but the armor is fake, and the next one might be the whole thing is crap. It's really sort of just a gambling game. You don't know, because it's just an individual that's just like an agent, just collecting orders and sourcing them out, and there's not any real consistency.
Great point. So, I've seen that firsthand. I will tell you, we very early on, our first batch of suits that we ordered when we started the company, we ordered 7 suits, and they were different little patterns, different, intricacies. I said, these aren't made by the same, not only the same person, they're not made on the same assembly line. And, come to find out that's what they're doing. They were subletting the work out. We kind of had a broker that we were working with. We didn't realize was a broker. And yeah, it's very interesting how that stuff works.
But even with the reputable companies, even with large scale producers and we say Pakistan, but we're talking about Sialkot, because there's one city in north eastern Pakistan near the Indian border where all of this leather, it's not just motorcycle leather, it's soccer balls, it's anything, all this stuff is made there. And even a large company that might have big contracts with name brands, companies like RST or Cortec or whatever, that are making millions of dollars of product, it's possible even for these brands, when they get overwhelmed, that they subcontract the stuff out. Absolutely. It happens even to big reputable companies. So it's a different culture, it's a different world. Unless someone's actually traveled to Pakistan and visited, really the average American can't imagine how different a culture it is. And these companies are all family oriented. So in a company, if it's old, it's probably gone from father to son. But even within the generation, you have nephews and brother-in-laws and cousins, and it's just all familiar. And so when these people leave, it's sort of like potato spuds. I mean, one company can create 3, and then they create 6, and it is a never-ending connection of trying to connect the dots between all the different companies. And sometimes those companies grow into reputable big companies, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And this is why most companies, European brands that deal in that area of the world, they travel there frequently. They sometimes have people that live in Sialkot or spend months there. RST actually got so tired of, I think, dealing with the problems. Their custom suits are actually built by their own facility that they invested the money in and created. But even all the major European brands that do a lot of business in Pakistan, they have very aggressive European hands-on contact to watch what their suppliers are doing, to look at the production, to follow through it. It's a never-ending process.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guarantee
So,
go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say what made me contact Robert though is, I mean, I have not had a direct responsibility for the American market of AGV Sport, which was good timing. I sold the rights to the U.S. market just a little more than a year before the COVID thing hit, and then for my own personal reasons during the COVID situation, I spent as much time out of the United States as possible, and I just was making my normal trip through Southeast Asia, and I have a trip to Pakistan coming up, and I was just doing some research, and I just saw the overwhelming amount. I mean, it's always been a problem, but it's just with social media now, it's just exploded to levels I've never seen before. And I was generally familiar with Bison because I try to pay a little bit of attention still what's going on in the U.S. But I just watched one of Robert's videos and then ended up, because I work at night, wherever I'm at, I work at night. And I end up like binge watching. I just stayed up like all night long. I just watched like every Bison video, not the like how to measure a suit ones, but the ones that talk about the company, how the company was created, traveling around in the motorhome. And then the one that intrigued me is the one that he did about the reputation of Pakistan manufacturers. And then after a couple of days went by, and I kept on getting hit by all these Pakistan companies, and a couple of them making Dainese, Revit, and Alpine Star knockoffs. And I'm writing Dainese and Alpine Star and Revit, and they're all and 4SR, and they're all writing me back saying thank you very much, and they're coming through. Like, it's getting to the point where I think I need to have like a direct line and realize, if a multi-million-dollar companies like Alpine Star and Dainese can't handle this, I'm thinking the position that Robert is in. And I just called him up and said, hey, this is crazy. And then we started talking, and here we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never bought anything. The only thing I've ever bought from Pakistan's were some Pendergast podcast shirts, right? Usually this is how I handle it. When they hit me up, I say, hey, what's t-shirts, right? Send me a sample. Most of them, I can't do that. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna work with you if I can't see it, touch it, smell it, try it on. It's not gonna work for the American public. The majority of them anyway. Some of them make good. I know there are some like RBS and ARN out there in the UK, because I have connections in BSBs, and they race them and ride them. They're good, but for the majority of them, I've heard a lot of complaints, even from people in our industry, track day people, and that they got scammed and ripped off, and the suits are not safe at all. One guy ordered a bunch of sweatshirts, and he could literally just take it and just go like this and just tear it apart.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's a huge topic.
There's a lot of good production in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
I have every suit personally that you can imagine. I don't know if there's anyone in the world that got more different kinds of suits than I have. I mean, Valentino Rossi probably has more suits than I have, but he doesn't have more kinds of suits than I have. I have suits from Indonesia, I have suits from China, I have suits from Vietnam, I have many suits from Pakistan, I have many suits from Italy. I have a Vercos kangaroo suit that was made for us. Vercos is the company that Revit bought that's now called Taylor Tech. I have suits from Jimoto, from Rowan. Corner was a fantastic Italian producer that made all the suits for all the AMA Superbike people that we sponsored during the 90s. I have many Pakistan suits. I have suits that are made really good in Vietnam by the company that makes Alpine Star. If I was going to a track day, and I am pretty conservative rider. I don't fall very much. And it was hot. And I was pretty confident it's going to be my normal day and I wasn't going to fall. Yeah, an Italian kangaroo suit is probably like the Rolex of all suits. Incredibly lightweight. The fit is unbelievable. They're just incredible. But if I knew that I was going to fall down, I mean, I had like a premonition. I knew I was going to fall down. I'd wear one of my good Pakistan suits. Those things are bulletproof. I go to Summit Point and I see these people wearing these AGV sport suits. They're like 25 years old. They must have crashed like 8,000 times. I want to go up to them and say, I give you $500 if you just get rid of that thing. It's like an embarrassment. It looks like you dug it behind a garbage truck for 40 miles. And you can't do that with an Italian suit. Of course, anyone that can afford an Italian suit wouldn't have to do that because the whole purpose of
Bingo.
these suits is value. And, you know, the AGV sport suits we had made in Pakistan were for club racers. People weren't getting 5 free Italian made suits every race weekend. You know, Matt and Ladden got endless, you know, suits from Italy, but, you know, the average racer can't afford that. So the Pakistan suits that are made by quality manufacturers, you know, whether it's Bison or RST or whether it's even the AGV sport suits, or the pilot suits are a good example. They were very good. I don't really know too much about Heroic, but I assumed that they were good. They're very safe suits, but we're not talking about, you know, we're talking about this endless social media people that we don't no one even knows who they are. I've talked to a lot of my Pakistan manufacturers in the last couple of weeks getting ready for my trip in a few weeks, and they said that they don't even know. These people literally are operating on their own and get these orders and go out in a marketplace and literally just buy them like on the market, like just source them out, and no one even knows where they're all coming from or who's making them and which ones are good and which ones are okay and which ones are terrible. It's really completely an uncontrolled thing. So that's the situation we're in. Then the counterfeiting is a different issue because I don't care how great a quality is, it's piracy. It's criminal. Yes. And I don't care if it's as good as quality as Denise or Alpine Star. It's not your intellectual property. You don't have any rights to be making product, no matter how good the quality is, with other people's name on it. So that's a separate issue.
Yeah, and you see it all the time, every day. I see it. I get hit up. You know, it's yeah. So, gentlemen, what do you guys think the right route to take to try to enhance and enlighten people on this whole subject and matter?
I think that when you get these solicitations, if you're a person that's tempted to even go farther than that, that there are certain questions you can ask the people that will immediately flesh them out. And, you know, I can send you a list of those if you want to. After the podcast, you can send them to people. But they can't answer these questions unless they're a real supplier, and 99% of them won't be able to answer the questions. The other thing is to look at their social media accounts and look at the pictures, because sometimes I would get inquiries from people, and they're not sending me a picture of an Alpine Star or Dainese suit. They're sending me a picture of their own brand, and they're saying we can make it for AGV Sport. But then I go and look at their Facebook profile, and I sit there for 10 minutes, scroll, and like 3 months back, I can see that they've got a picture of a table, and they got an Alpine Star, Dainese, or Revit, or 4-star suit. I'm like, bingo. So it's like, and they don't even realize it, because most of these people, they're not motorcyclists. They don't know anything about. First of all, you know, 90% of the people that are contacting me now are not contacting me to make suits for AGV Sport. They're contacting me because I'm on Facebook, and they're contacting to sell me a suit. So how stupid do you have to be? The founder and president of AGV Sport trying to sell me at retail a suit.
That's funny. And they do that. And then when I say, no, I'm good. And then I'll send them a picture of like 5 racks of Bison suits together. And they'll say, those all your suits? No, yes, because I have this company. Oh, and then it's like they've hit a gold mine. They're like, well, we'll be your new supplier. Oh, yeah? No, not interested.
Well, and they have the same price for everyone. So if you're a retail customer or you're a dealer or distributor, it's the same price. So like, well, how's that going to work? If you're selling to the public for $5.99, you're selling to a dealer for $5.99, you're selling to a distributor for $5.99. How exactly? They don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about the motorcycle industry. What they know is they have a cousin, a nephew, a brother-in-law that works at a leather factory, and they saw the price they sell for in a Western country, and they know the price that they cost in Sialcott, and they just subtract this from that and think, I can make a lot of money. All I need is to have a Instagram account and a Facebook page and an internet connection, and be able to take a Western Union payment. So it's just,
yeah, and they always want cash. Send it cash. Send
Western
it cash.
Union. Yeah,
Western Union, and put cash pickup. You know, it's.
I've lost.
Well, they don't really have any
$1,000.
other way. Yeah, they don't really have any other way of taking payments. It's not like they're taking cash because they're unethical. They could be unethical. They probably are unethical. But even if they weren't, I mean, even a reputable company. I mean, PayPal doesn't even work in Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan is basically the military runs the country. It's not exactly, anyway.
Yeah.
Cash is the only way, whether you're AGV Sport buying 1,000 suits or whether you're a guy in Nebraska buying one suit, cash is the only way. You're not gonna buy it on credit. They can't ship. They have export controls. They can't ship stuff out of the country without showing they've been paid for it. So when you have a company like Bison can pay the manufacturer and connect as intermediary and can guarantee the quality, the fitment. That's because that's an American doing that. But the Pakistanis don't have any ability to do that. They can't even send the product out of the country unless they can prove they've been paid for it, because the Pakistan government will look at that as like money laundering, like they're exporting, because that's, common way to get money out of a country is by, shipping product out and playing with the invoices. And anyway, another reason that would be another issue from the reputable Pakistan people that are in Europe that are selling into the United States, is that even if the suits are good, even if they have CE armor, even if the leather quality is good, you don't have any recourse. You sent your money. If the sizing all screwed up or there's some even honest mistake, they're not going to give you a refund. I don't care who they are. So unless you're dealing with an American company, and I'm sure, and I'm not saying all American companies would do it either, but if you're not dealing with an American company, you have no chance. I saw a guy in Sacramento last week selling Pakistan suits in Sacramento, California. And on his website, it says that those suits are made in his factory in California. He's retailing them for $5.99.
It is insane to me how many of those there are. I say insane. There's only a handful. I know maybe 3, including that one, right? That kind of dodge around the Pakistani tie. And I can tell you, when we started this company, so to tail off of what Michael just said, the reason that Bison started is because I was a club racer that started getting sponsors and needed patches on my suit, and said, well, okay, had this guy hit me up and say, hey, for $500, I'll make you a full custom suit. I'm like, oh, great. His timing was perfect. So I said, I can spend $600 on an RST black and white suit and have patches put on it and maybe alter it a little bit. And then I'm at $800 to $1,000, or I can go $500, have a full color match pro looking suit with patches and everything. And, let's do that. When I got it and I opened the box, it looked awesome. Like I opened the box, I'm like, oh, it's great. It has all my logos, has my name on it. I picked it up and I was like, I don't know. This thing feels kind of weird. And then I put it on and there were a ton of fitment issues. And at that point, I was kind of up a creek. I'm messaging the guy and he's like, oh, well, you measured wrong and you did this wrong and that. And I said, well, what about the leather quality? He says, oh, it's safe. I promise you. So I took that suit to Motorsports Ranch Crescent the next weekend. And I was all excited to wear the suit. And I'm like, I'm wearing it, fitment be damned. Like the legs were too short. I could barely get off the bike, but I'm like, it looks really cool. So I go to put it on and my friends are like, dude, that suit just feels like it's not, like it's too thin and it's just chintzy. Like it looks a little bit off, but it feels really off. I'm not sure I'd race in it. I said, no, I'm fine. Because I was only racing a Ninja 250 also. And I'm like, how bad can I really hurt myself on a 250? We all know that's stupid. That's a stupid way of thinking.
Pretty bad.
The little bikes will bite you the worst, man.
Yes, they will.
So I went out on this bike which was, by the way, a loaner bike, because I blew mine up in morning practice. So a friend of mine said, here's this bike, and it just needs brake calipers put on it, and you can run it for the weekend. Great. So I took it back, and I get out there on the grid, and the thing is just, the tack is stuck at like 4,000. So I give it a couple revs, and it comes down. I'm like, all right, that's weird. Lights go out, we take off, and I get into what's called the rattlesnake at Crescent, which is a low-speed chicane. And about halfway through the rattlesnake, the throttle just sticks wide open on me. And so I just, grab front brake and tuck the front. And so it wasn't a bad crash. And I actually have a great sequence of photos from this crash. Photographer was right there. But the bike, because it was, you can see the tack on the photos at 10,000. And so the rear tire grabbed my leg and it pirouetted me one way and the bike the other. And so I spun around and then bounced into the grass. And I was like, God, what the hell was that all about? Well, the leather on the suit, not the seam, but the leather had torn on my thigh from almost knee to hip, just ripped wide open. My padding, anywhere that there was padding on this suit, I was bruised. I mean, I took the armor out of this after the fact, and it was not CE armor. It was just junk that, foam that they could put in there to say it had armor. And so I was all beat up. So I wrote the guy back and I said, not only did the thing fit terribly, but I crashed it at probably 20 miles an hour and it came apart and I'm hurt. Every one of my extremities is hurt. And he's like, oh, sorry. Well, for $450, I'll make you another one, right? It's like, this is what you run into. And so when people say, oh, well, I can just circumvent the middleman and just buy a suit directly from Pakistan and save some money. Yes, you can. But what are you actually getting? And then what recourse do you have if it doesn't go right? Because a factory, even if you take your measurements 110%, the factory makes mistakes. And if a factory makes a mistake and you're covered under Bison's fitment guarantee, we take care of it. It's no questions asked, we're good to go. If a factory makes a mistake, like in my situation, and I get the suit and say, guys, it's messed up. No, well, you took the measurements wrong. It's not on us. Well, then you're out $500-600, and then you got to figure out if you're going to spend another $500-600 to try that again, or if you're then going to spend $1,000 to $2,000 to go with a reputable company that will have your back. So, yeah, you got to weigh that going in.
About 20 years ago, we had an opportunity in the UK market. The company that actually created RST split into two pieces, and the guy that left the company is called Euro Helmets, then became Moto Direct, and the guy that left the company, he went on to become the KBC Helmet, the O'Neill, and the AGV Sport importer in the UK. And we had an opportunity to submit some leathers for testing to Ride Magazine and MCN that were both doing, really big leather reviews. And there's not really places in the US that do tests like this, because when these British magazines did tests, they spent a lot of money. They did all the Cambridge testing. They sent them to labs. They tore them. I've never seen an American magazine ever. At most, they'll do a riding test, and if the guy falls down, they might write a review about how the suit held up in a crash. But I've never seen an American magazine pay a lot of money for laboratories to test. So we sent both of these magazines completely independently, about 6 months apart from each other, Pakistan suit models. And we had at that time suits made in Pakistan, suits made in the Far East, either in China, Vietnam, or Indonesia, and suits made in Italy. But we didn't want to send them, a top suit. We wanted to send them a really good performing, inexpensive suit. And in both of those tests, that were the other companies were Speedy, Spike, which is no longer in business, Dainese, Alpine Star, big brands. Our Pakistan suits in both tests of both magazines came out number one in terms of performance, not maybe in terms of comfort or in terms of weight or ventilation, in terms of holding up in a crash, number one. And the AGV Sport suit, now this is 20 years ago, the AGV Sport suit was like $600-700, and the top of the line Dainese and Alpine suits, even at that time, were like almost $2,000. So they were made in Italy at the time. and I'll send you those, Robert, because they're good.
I'd be interested.
Not for yeah, they're good just to show that Pakistan suits can be super safe. If you look, there's no more dangerous race in the world than the Isle of Man. And if you look at the Isle of Man, almost, I'd say practically 99% of every racer in the Isle of Man is wearing a Pakistan-made suit. They're almost all. First of all, RST owns that market, and the 10% that aren't wearing RST are wearing other brands of Pakistan leathers. There's very few, Italian-made or other or Vietnamese-made suits in there. So the question isn't Pakistan or not. The question is, dealing with someone reputable or not. And in the Far East, and in Italy or in Vietnam, China, or Indonesia, you don't have this problem because these companies in the Far East won't make one suit at a time. They want to make 100 suits or 500 suits. In Pakistan, you have the situation where you can literally get an order for one suit and go and give it and place an order for one suit. If you went in China or Indonesia or Vietnam and you do that, they would laugh you out of it. I mean, it's never. So the problem is only a Sialkot problem. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. It's just a problem in that area of the world. And that tied in with the fact that all these people, that the culture, that all these businesses are so family related, and all the familiar and the employee connections, it's just the perfect recipe for just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with all that being said, what's the best way people can spot the fakes? And it's because sometimes I get like a legit photo and it's hard to tell sometimes what's real and what's not, and who's legit and who's not. So
this is what I was talking
to go ahead.
This is what I was talking to Alpine Star about, because 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, if you saw a copy of Alpine Star Dainese, it was easy to tell. I mean, just the way the letters were cut out, it was easy. But the stuff I'm seeing now, oh my God, it
good.
Looks really good. It's good. But the way you tell, the way you tell is the molded plastic components, the shoulder caps, the elbow pieces, because they don't have access to the injection molded pieces in Pakistan that Dainese or Alpine Star or Revit have. And that is the dead giveaway, because no matter how great the leather looks, how good the logos are, the plastic components will never be close to the actual real product.
And that's part of the reason that we spend a bunch of money to get our own, bespoke shoulder and knee protections these last couple of years, because we had prior used kind of the Pakistani models with the rubber overlays that had the Bison logos on them, and they look fine and they protect fine. But then I was seeing, on eBay, people saying, here's a Bison suit for sale. And it had the same logos, because you could just grab it. You could grab the thing off the shelf and put it on. And I'm like, that's not a suit that we made, but it had our protectors on it. Well, now we have our own that, can't be copied, and it could be copied, but it would be much more difficult to put it that way.
Yeah, it can't be copied in Pakistan without it looking obvious. But most of the European companies that produce large quantities of Pakistan send the armor in from China, Korea, even from Italy. I think that Shima, the Polish up and coming company, I think they actually may send their plastic pieces in from Europe. But
really?
It surprised me, because it's quite expensive compared to sourcing them in China. But that's the easiest way to tell. But the question that I've been posing to Robert is, because everyone looks at this problem, and I get frustrated dealing with the big companies, Alpine Star and Revit and Dainese, because it seems like that you're just talking to office staff, and it's not, and that these companies have gotten so big that there's no one really in the intellectual property thing that's really involved in the motorcycle business. It's a law firm in Park Avenue somewhere, and these attorneys don't understand anything about the motorcycle business, and everyone just looks at Pakistan and throws up their hands like, it's impossible to go to Pakistan, and there's no. easy method that's going to shut down these things. I said, yeah, anyone knows that. That's not hard. That's not the problem. That's not the solution. These people don't have a business if they don't have Amazon, eBay, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And these are American companies. TikTok maybe will be. But Facebook and Instagram, and Amazon, and eBay, these are American companies, and they're easy to get at. And we're in the most litigious country in the world, and nobody wants to get sued. And it's not like these people are advertisers, and it's not like they're making any money. It's not like Facebook is getting any revenue from this. So it's a total loser for them to spend 1 minute of legal time on this stuff. So to me, it's very easy. People have intellectual property problems to not waste their time trying to go to Pakistan, to go directly to the American companies that are putting this stuff on their websites and not doing anything about it. eBay is incredible. I mean, it's bad enough when Facebook and Instagram are doing it, but eBay is a seller. They're collecting money.
Mm-hmm.
And I can find like tons of counterfeit stuff on eBay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is that possible?
Yeah, you got to report those things. That's what's tough. With us, when we see them pop up, we just had one a couple of months ago, and I put it on my personal Facebook. Chris saw it. Chris reported it. I'm like, guys, please, because if I report it, eBay's like, yeah, sure, we'll look into it. If we have 10, 20, 50 people report it, they'll take it down. But it does take a little bit of time. It takes some effort. And, for us, it's like one every now and then. But yeah, I can get on eBay right now and find 20 counterfeit Alpine Stars items,
and nobody works. I mean, you think if Revit and Alpine Star and Dainese and everyone threw in $50 a month, you could pay a full-time person to just do this 40 hours a week and just stop the problem. But nobody talks to each other. And when I started sending this stuff to Alpine Star and Revit and Forest Star, I think they were like shocked. They're like, why are you sending us this stuff? It's like, because I'm trying to help you. And they're like, okay, thank you. It's like, this is not in anyone's interest. This is not good. This is not helping my business out. The fact that you're allowing all your product to be ripped off and that people can buy Alpine Star jackets for $195 or pretend Alpine Star jackets. So anyway, it's frustrating, but I think that a lot of people don't realize how these companies. I mean, Alpine Star is a huge company. I don't know how big, but I heard people in Italy tell me it's more than $200 million a year. So that's huge. Dainese is purchased by Carlyle Group, which is a company that had $28 billion in revenue last year and is holding assets of almost $500 billion. That's more than the gross domestic product of most of the countries in the world. So to try to get their attention on anything is like next to impossible. I was trying to get an AGV helmet for Matt Mladen. He got inducted in the AMA Hall of Fame. The guy's 7-time Superbike champion. Never going to happen again, not in 1,000 years. And I spent like 6 months trying to just get one helmet for the guy. Yeah. And it would have been like trying to get the federal government to like give you landing rights at Dulles Airport or something. As finally I gave up, I called up, I know TJ at KYT, and I just said, hey, this is the situation. Can you help out? And like in a week later, I got 4 KYT helmets.
Shout out KYT. That's right.
But, I've known him for about 5 years now. And so I set up the California Superbike School with KYT helmets because I knew that they were interested in really growing the brand. And that company, KYT is just a brand. The company that owns KYT actually made AGV helmets, several of their models for many, many years. They're one of the they may be the largest helmet company in the world outside of Jakarta, Indonesia.
Don't they also make Suomi?
They own Suomi. So Suomi is just a brand name of, they have like 6 different brands, and the ones that are well known is KYT and Suomi. Most of the brands they own are for the Indonesian market, which is like a market of almost 300 million people. And it's a huge, they make it's something ridiculous, like 5 million helmets a year. It's something just unimaginable, but it's a huge company. But the point is that some of these companies they're so far away from the original founders. I mean, AGV, since I've been doing AGV has been sold 6 times. So it's 6 times, removed from the original founding of the company. And, most of these companies are just very far away from the original person that started the company. And they're almost like in a corporate banking world that, the people have no connection with the sport or understand really. It's just an investment. They're just looking at their return on the investment, and they're looking at, like your wife, they're like a CPA. They're looking at like an accounting, look at the spreadsheets and looking at that. And but unlike your wife, they're not going to the racetrack and they're not actually involved. They're just sitting in their office in New York or London or Tokyo and just counting the numbers and seeing if the numbers are going up or the numbers are going down. And so
that's the cool thing about Bison. Our CPA, I get home and she says, "Hey, did you see Track Day Junkies today? Or did you see what happened in Moto America? Who went where on what team?" I'm like, "No, babe, I did not." So let me get you all up to speed. She's more into it than I am even.
Yeah. Well, that's, and that's because you're the core, you're the founders. You're
right.
It's
that's the trick is even hiring people, keeping people with that same passion. When somebody comes to us, our graphic designers, for instance, they'll come and say, "Hey, listen, I have a little bit of graphic design experience, and I see you have an opening, but I really love doing this. I love gear and I love the sport." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, we can train you on the other stuff, right?" So let's bring in passionate people. And so even with investors, we've had a lot of people approach us as investors, and we have turned them down because it tends to pull you away from your core if you don't have the right partners. We have one investor, and that person is a friend of ours who is a racer and rider, and he's very invested in the community. And, it's a great symbiotic relationship, but just a small investment. And, we just want to keep it relatable and that personable touch, so, because the bigger you get, that's the problem, is scaling up that passion is difficult.
Well, and a lot of these companies, they're not, after World War II, Japan and Italy were, devastated economically and even their infrastructure. And these companies were not like motorcycle companies. I mean, I spent so many years traveling in Italy, and I can't remember one time going to any of my boot suppliers or glove suppliers or the AGV helmets and like seeing motorcycles in the parking lot. It's a business. Alpine Stars was a boot company. Speedy was a glove company. Dainese was a leather jacket company. It started making motocross pants when motocross pants were made out of leather. AGV was a bicycle seat company that got into making leather helmets and then dropped the bicycle seats and then made fiberglass helmets and then got into the helmet business. Mr. Ramazano never rode a motorcycle in his life. He was an enthusiast in watching the races, which was more than some people. But I think a lot of Americans, they look at these companies and think that you go there and they're just like passionate motorcycle people. It's not really the case at all. And it's certainly not the case when you go to China or Vietnam or Pakistan. The passion is really the American industry that came out of the 60s, especially like when the movie On Any Sunday hit. All the people got into motorcycle dealers and distributors and making accessory brands that were all like really enthusiasts. But now a lot of those companies, if you look like Fox Racing, they're just bought up by investment. They've lost everything. I mean, I remember going into the offices of Fox and talking to Pete and Jeff Fox like many years ago when AGV made the first Fox pilot helmets for them, and they had like surfboards hanging from the ceiling of their office, and they were like, it was like that's like the family. It's like the family business. Now it's just like dealing at any corporation. It's just a brand. It's not really. So what you're doing will last as long as you are at the helm, which is why why AGV Sport always stayed the way it was, because I was never trying to multiply it and grow it into some big company sell. I was trying to make a lifestyle for myself where I could travel and ride motorcycles and not I had like psychic vision, because 50 years ago, I didn't want to ever work for anyone else because I had a premonition of what has happened like in the last 5 years, all this woke crap. And when you have to like totally be subservient to all kinds of ideas and political things. I never wanted to have a boss. I didn't care if I was a millionaire or if I just got by. I just wanted to wake up in the morning and not have to take any crap from anybody else. If I wanted to go somewhere, I wanted to go.
That's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had people over the years, say, oh, Alpine Star is doing this and Denise is doing, and I go back to like the EICMA show in November. I'm like, I'm still AGV Sport. I'm still doing these companies, and some have come and gone, bankrupted, been bought, sold out. And I'm still the same person at the same company. I'm like just going along and doing my thing. So, and some of the big brands are gone, like Spike. I mean, Spike was a very big company, and a lot of these companies are just gone. Where's Hein Garrick?
Wild. So, Michael, you've been around longer than me. Chris, I'm sorry, I have to ask this question to Michael because I want his take on it. I'm not trying to commandeer your show here, bro.
Dude, you're good. You're good, man.
Why do you think these companies come and go? I've got my own, I've seen a much smaller window of time than you have, right? I've only been in this industry this chunk of time compared to yours. What do these companies come and go for typically in this industry?
Well, it depends on the country of origin they are. But if I look at the famous Italian companies, so the original father started the company, and then the company passes to a son, if there's a son. In AGV's case, Mr. Ramazan didn't have a son, so it went right into investment capital bankers that don't know anything about what the hell they're doing, don't know anything about the helmet business. Dainese saved AGV. I mean, Dainese just did a spectacular job with AGV from when they bought AGV in 2007. But now Dainese isn't owned. Dainese is now owned by a giant company. So we'll see what happens in the future. But most of these companies, they just lose the passion of the original creator, but also they grow too big, and the motorcycle market we're not selling stuff for commuters. We're not selling stuff to like motorbike riders in Vietnam or China. This is a sport. It's a fun thing. So when the economy goes down, people don't buy boats and jet skis and snowmobiles and motorcycles. So you have this kind of thing going like this. And now you have it because of COVID. Because COVID, the sales went way up, and a lot of people look at KTM. People made way too much stuff. And I know a lot of apparel companies are in big trouble too because they made way too much stuff because the people that own the companies weren't in touch with the market enough to understand that was a phenomenon, that when COVID was over, that wasn't going to keep going, that they were getting advanced sales. And so to me, the companies in Italy that have gotten into, and Alpine Star is a hugely successful company, but Alpine Star has been a couple times on the brink. They've been, over their history, been very close. Had very serious financial problems. They're huge though, and the name is so valuable that they've been able to pull out. But the companies that didn't make it, to me, are always the same reason: is they grow too fast and they lose the core passion of the original founder, and then they lose their way, and eventually the debt, sort of like the KTM situation, the debt becomes out of control with the revenue, and the banks pull the plug.
Yep.
In the Asian market, it happens. There's not really ever any passion, but it usually happens just more for financial reasons. They just expand too fast, and then there's some kind of banking issue. I've seen a couple really big companies in the Far East collapse because of getting overextended on debt, trying to grow too fast, and then the economy turned down and they couldn't make their payments, and the banks move in and shut them down. So,
gotcha.
But Mr. Amazano, the funny thing, because I came back from, my father worked for IBM, and I lived in Paris when I turned 14. And you could ride a motorcycle in Europe at that time when you're 14, a small one. And so I was familiar with AGV since I was 13, 14 years old. And I've followed AGV ever since then. So I know probably as much about AGV as any living person in the world. But I think Mr. Amazano made more money selling AGV and repossessing it than he ever made on helmets, because he sold the company a number of times to the people, but he never sold the real estate. He sold the brand and the company, but he never sold like the factory and the physical assets. And then they would screw it up and get in 2 or 3 years, get in financial trouble, and he'd repossess it, and then 5 years later sell it again. And I think he made more money doing that. And then eventually Dainese, when he was getting, because Dainese bought it just like 18 months before he passed away. So that last time to Dainese was a real legitimate sale. But yeah, the motorcycle world is so incestuous. People don't realize. That's why I love it when you see on Reddit, people, we'll talk about one brand versus another brand and how good one is and how bad another is. I'm like, those two brands are made in the same factory with the same leather by the same people. I stood in the factory in Vietnam and seen Alpine Star, Technique, Revit, Furrigon, AGV Sport, all being made at the same time by the same employees with the same leather and thread on the same sewing machines. So you can say, you want one brand because you like the image, that's fine. Right. You like the design, that's fine. But don't tell me like when you crash that, because one table produced like Superman product and it was on another table that all of a sudden that wasn't as good. But people are so influenced by marketing. It's why people pay $1,500 for a Coach or Burberry freaking handbag that you buy at Walmart for $50. So
100%. And I will tell you this, based on the marketing thing, the first time we went to California, it was actually the last market that we went to. We've been all corners of the United States and stuff now, and of course, but the Southern California was really the last place that we kind of went to, last frontier. Anyway, we went to Laguna Seca, which is not Southern California, I understand, Californians, but we got there, we set up for ARMA one weekend, huge turnout, and we were slammed all weekend long. We had people coming by, but so many people came by and looked at our stuff and said, man, I just bought a Dainese suit or an Alpine Star suit. I just bought one because I saw this online and I saw people recommend it, but I thought at the price point, it just wasn't going to be any good. And now I see it and I'm like, man, this is good. I should have gone with this, but it's a perceived value thing. And earlier, Michael, when you talked about people are going to buy Dainese, there's a perception that this is going to last forever. It's going to be the best. It's going to be the most comfortable, protective, all this stuff. But that's not necessarily the case. It's just the marketing, the name, the branding, and all that stuff. Not to say that Dainese is not a great suit. It is. And it might be very, very comfortable and stuff. But in terms of longevity and everything, that's not necessarily the case. And so, there's a perception there. And it's pretty wild how that influences people's purchase decisions. What we notice when we go to Southern California, Chuckwalla, for instance, Thunderhill, there's a lot of Dainese custom suits there. There's a lot of AGV helmets. There are Alpine Stars helmets. Everybody's wearing Venom Sport base layers, which are freaking amazing, but pricier than other stuff on the market. Everybody down there has money, wants to be the best of the best. It's the LA situation. Whereas you go to Hastings in Nebraska, people are wearing Bison suits, plus suits, Moto D.
It's always been it's always been like that. I mean, when I was handling HV helmet distribution, the San Francisco Bay Area was the #1 area for HV helmets in the entire United States.
I bet it still is. Yeah.
California is just like a different country for good and bad reasons.
Yeah, I agree.
A different place. So, but I think some people buy Dainese suits because, it's like, I don't think a person buys a Rolex watch thinks it tells better time than a watch from Rip Curl or something. And I think a lot of people buy Dainese suits don't necessarily think that it's going to be safer than another kind of suit. They think it's going to be good, but it's the name. It's Dainese. It's a status symbol. So it's beautiful product. The fit, the finish, the materials are beautiful, and I think they have the money. But those are not the people primarily that are going out every weekend and racing their SV 650 and
correct,
falling down a couple times a year and on a budget, and they're riding their Ducati Panigale and their out in the canyons blasting or going to a track day or whatever. If you're a racer, I can't see wearing a Dainese suit unless you're sponsored or unless you have just a lot of money, because they're just very, very expensive suits. I had people call me that had, because I get a lot of calls for AGV helmets because people confuse the companies. And I talked to a guy just a couple of weeks ago that had a Pista helmet. He's trying to find a part for it. And he had a Dainese suit. And he told me he spent $3,800 for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, some $4,000. That's like, that's
a big chunk of money.
Yeah. But it was not, he didn't, I mean, I didn't ask him what his income was, but he wasn't complaining. He didn't think it was unreasonable.
No, more power to him.
He had a $1,500 Pista helmet. I mean, he wasn't like,
Yeah.
So
no, more power to him.
Yeah.
I see Mike over there said he wants to chime in about something. Also, I want to talk, by the way, hold on. Mark Sherman, what's up, brother? And Keith Kelly, my buddies there. But I also wanted to mention Daryl Powell's comment about the Virus Power suit. I want to talk about that here in a bit. But are you familiar with Virus Power, Michael?
No.
Virus
Power?
Yeah. You have to check them out. We haven't talked about them. So I'm big into researching alternative materials right now to leather. I come from the auto industry, spent a long time in the auto industry, and I watched that shift from, fine Corinthian leather and all this stuff to, to literally leatherette and microfiber suede that's made out of recycled bottles and stuff, So that's the way the auto industry is going. I see this industry shifting to that at some point. Obviously the added element is the durability and the safety of alternate materials. But Virus Power is one that I've seen for a while. Their suits, to Daryl's point here in the comments, they're not made of leather. They're made of a fabric. And we at Bison, we have a 1000D Cordura / super fabric, vegan or textile suit, and it does really well. It's popular, but when I went out to Italy for World Superbike this past year, I met with the owners of Virus Power while we were out there and saw their products. And I got to tell you, like, it was pretty impressive. I kind of looked at it like, our vegan suit, I don't recommend for anybody over, I say intermediate pace, if you're racing, if you're doing advanced pace. It's not that it wouldn't protect you, but it gets frayed, in a tumble, in a slide, the panels fray, and you're talking about a lot of repair work, or replacing the suit after a big crash. And I think the Virus Power suit, even though, and I don't have personal experience with this other than seeing crash suits in the paddock there at WSBK, it's not as durable as leather because nothing is right now, which is why we still use leather primarily, but it's pretty damn close. And it feels and looks really good in person. So anyway, the Virus Power stuff's really interesting. And I was talking to them about maybe doing some sort of partnership going forward. We're kind of, we've both gotten busy, but I've kept in touch with them, since meeting them over the summer and seeing the products, because I was really impressed.
I have a lot of connections in Italy, especially with very technical people from HV. I'll find out some information for you. And I'm not familiar with this particular company, but the until now, the problem has been with any synthetic material is the reason why leather is so ideal isn't from like the strength point of view, because you can make a suit out of Kevlar weave. It's that leather is self-lubricating and it slides. Because 30 years ago, they tried to make suits out of like K-Protect material, which was incredibly durable.
Right.
But when you crashed, it was like Velcro hook and loop, and it made the riders tumble and broke like every bone in their body. The suits held up fine. You were just a bag of bones in them, though. So you have to find something that's not only strong, but something that doesn't grip and skims along the surface.
Yes.
So I don't know about this material, but I know that fabrics are made by giant companies. So this company is just buying this material from the very large supplier. And I'll find out for you because
they use they use a material called Primatex. I talked with Christian, who's the CEO of Iris Power, looked through everything, and this Primatex material, I guess, is used in firefighting equipment. Slides well, and like I said, very durable. But it's supposed to be pretty rad stuff. I haven't found a way to, what's that?
My Italian, this company is in the same town in Italy where my Italian attorney is, in Prato.
Oh yeah.
Right outside of Florence. And it's not really an industrial area. It's strange because like most industry is in northern Italy. This is like in Tuscany, in a very tourist kind of area. Yeah. But I'm looking at their factory pictures now. Interesting. No, to check it out. I'm going to be in Italy after Pakistan. I'm going to Italy, so I'll look at that.
Yeah, check them out. No, they were cool guys. They did a little repair for us on Mallory Dobbs's suit, women's world championship. She had a crash, and she's like, I don't know what to do. And I took it over to the Virus Power guys. I'm like, hey, I just met you like 10 minutes ago. Can you fix this suit for me? They're like, oh yeah. Threw it on the sewing machine, fixed it up. We took a selfie together. It was all love. So that's cool.
What is the pricing like compared to a leather suit?
I don't know. I do know they're not inexpensive. That much I do know. I don't have the pricing.
Nothing in Italy is inexpensive.
They're proud of them. But I was surprised how many people in the WSBK paddock were wearing them. And then, I've been watching the, Redding's social media. He's got one now and seems really stoked about it. So pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a good looking suit out too. I'm excited to see how they do and how it holds up.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
I always thought too, when we're going to get away from leather products or kangaroo in the motorcycle industry as far as safety goes, something's bound to come along that's going to be more durable, lighter, breathable, crash protected, but also have that durability to where it's an easy fix, not so expensive to fix. Speaking of, all the other manufacturers out there, I got a buddy that has a full custom Dainese suit, and it was almost $8,000. And I was like, bro, like what is wrong with you? Like, how many other suits you could have bought, or how much other stuff you could have bought for $8,000? But again, it's that perception of, hey, I got a Rolex. Okay, and it tells time just like my iPhone, just like a $200 G-Shock or a $10 watch, right? It's that bling bling. Everybody wants to have the the best, latest, greatest, and they think because they have it, their status, I guess, in life elevates, right? When really it don't. Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm on their website right now, and it says the price of a custom suit is €2,700, but if you want to have color customization, you have to add €400 on top of that. So this is very expensive. It's over $3,000.
Yeah. And then that's the thing too, is, when you go to the Bison website, bisontrack.com, you look through the pricing is all inclusive. There's no a la carte stuff. There's no add-ons. That's one of our staff members here at Bison. She had to get a Dainese suit based on her team requirements. She had to get a Dainese custom. And then she also ordered a Bison custom at the same time. Then she got her Bison suit, I think, in like a fifth of the time, as the Dainese. But then she showed us the invoice for the Dainese suit, and it was like initial price is $3,000, and then adds colors, adds measurements, adds this, adds that. It was like, $6,800 or something like that. And I'm like,
whoa.
And if I go to the Dainese website, it's like, here's the custom works. If you want pricing, it's not, if you got to ask. But to your point, Chris, with the Rolex, I have friends that are pilots. Went over to a house the other night. We had to get together. There's like 3 pilots there, and they're all showing off their Rolexes and their tags and all that. And then they, my buddy goes in his bedroom and brings out the Bad Mama Jamma. I don't know what it is. I'm like, that's a cool watch, I guess. And he's like, I said, but why? Because he's like, man, I'd like mortgage my house for this thing. And I said, but why? Because when I got my certification, to fly jets commercially, I wanted to be able to walk into a room of pilots and they go, oh, he's the real deal. Because pilots look at the wrist. That's the first thing. It's a tradition. So, yeah. And a suit's the same way, I think. You go to Laguna Seca for that Ducati Revs day, you got to be in a Dainese suit, right? Because otherwise, people look at you. So it is. And that's fine.
It is,
I
but
mean,
it don't.
the I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say, don't tell time any better. Don't do anything better than any others. Just real quick, my brother come in town. It's been a while since I've seen him, and I look at it. I was like, "Did you get a new watch?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, it's a sweet watch. I'm not gonna lie, right?" And I was like, "Man, how much did you pay for that?" He said $15,000. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, mom and dad, did you not raise him right? Like, I'm confused right now. I just spent so much money on something that just tells time, right? Again, it's that whole I love you, Nick, by the way. It's that nothing but love to you, bro. But again, it's that, whole status quo thing. So yeah.
Look good, feel good.
And
it does.
And for that market, Dainese has, I mean, other companies have tried, but Dainese is sort of in a class by themselves when it comes to just that status symbol, which I couldn't have imagined when I was first writing to AGV helmets when I was like 15 years old, that someday I would license the AGV name and I started an apparel company. And then decades after that, Dainese would go from this unknown company that made motocross pants to this giant empire that would then buy AGV and own AGV. It's like, it's just unimaginable how things, turn out. So,
yep. And Mike in the comments made a good point. Mike Duran said it's perception, like who's wearing or who's sponsored by these companies. And that is true. When we first started Bison, we had a ton of people like, well, who's wearing your stuff? And I was like, well, nobody yet, because we just started, right? I need you to wear it. And then, as we turned all of a sudden in a few years had 50 Moto America racers wearing it. Well, then the orders just come, right? A lot of it's perception. But here's the thing with who's wearing that stuff. And Mike can speak better about this than I can, because we had to talk about how sponsorships used to be in the AMA Pro Paddock and what they are now. But, when you buy one of these suits, you're paying for this huge, beautiful headquarters, and you're paying for those riders you see on TV. You're paying for all those Rossi's suits that he's got, hanging in. I mean, anytime you see Valentino Rossi on his social media these days, he has a dozen Dainese suits behind him, and he's not even racing anymore. He's just getting stuff.
Well, forget the suits. Forget the suits. It's the salary, the travel expenses, the royal. It's millions and millions of the suits are nothing. Suits are just chump change.
For sure.
It's the money.
Yes.
I was going through I don't throw away anything. I have everything ever that I had. I have the first letter from Mr. Amazon at AGV written to me on October 10th, 1975, when Gerald Ford was president, having no idea he was writing to a 15-year-old kid. And I have everything. I have everything. So from handwritten letters, then to fax machines, then to emails. I have every single communication, leather, everything. I was going through my documents, and I actually have the paper contract of Kenny Roberts' helmet contract with AGV from 1977 when he went to Europe. And I'm looking at these figures and thinking, this would be like Wira Endurance Series money. It's like, I almost wanted to I went to Barber. I have some Kenny replicas in my office. I took them and had them autographed them. I thought, damn, I should have brought that contract, give him like a photocopy. He probably just didn't even remember how freaking little money he was making. I mean, even by the standards, I mean, people didn't get paid. Those guys did not get paid a lot of money for helmets and leathers in the 60s. They didn't get anything. In the 70s, AGV started paying like Agostini and Roberts and Barry Sheen. But it wasn't until into the 80s when money started getting big. And I know, Robert, you talk about Hallett a lot. I have a very bittersweet memory of Hallett. I only went there.
I love Hallett stories.
It was 1977, and I had just started. Was old enough to start racing, and I was racing an RD350 that I used one that I bought for like $300 or $400, and I had a friend that had a Suzuki Water Buffalo GT750, and we were doing all the weird races. We were like and selling AGV helmets. We were going all over the country, And we got this brilliant idea to go to College Station, and Peter and Patty Frank were running. It wasn't even WERA, it was ERA. It was ERA. And they had a race at College Station, Texas. And we thought, yeah, we're gonna go to College Station. We're gonna go to this race. So we drive all the way from Maryland to College Station, and we get there, and there's like, it didn't seem like there was any activity going on. We climb over the fence, we're climbing up the big earthen embankment, and we look over down into like the super speedway, and there's like just crickets and like 125-watt light bulb like in the whole facility. And we're thinking, and of course, this is like way before mobile phones or anything. So next morning we get up early, we call Peter and Patty's apartment back in Philadelphia. They answered the phone and said, "Oh, you didn't get the mail? Yeah, we canceled that race." I said, "We just drove to freaking Texas." And they said, "Well, there's a club race at Hallett, Oklahoma. If you leave now, you get there tonight, you at least be there for Sunday." So we jumped in the van and drove to Hallett, got there like 5 o'clock at night, something like that. And we get up the next morning, and here's this young kid racing like MT 125 Honda, RD 400 production bike, RD 400 super bike, GS 750 production, GS 750 super bike, TZ 250, TZ 750, all in one day. Freddie Spencer. Yeah. Unbelievable. He won like everything that day. We went to him and said, "You want a helmet sponsorship?" Because he didn't have any sponsorship. Just his brother had I think it was a Suzuki shop, I don't remember, but his dad was basically the sponsor, and his brother was helping him out, had a shop in Denton, Texas. And so we made a deal. We gave his brother's shop 24 AGV helmets, not even all at once, but just agreed to give him that over the season in exchange for him, wearing AGV. And we gave him a helmet, and he went out, and I remember it was very hot, and there was tarantulas all over the place. And this girl, he was lapping this girl, and she moved over quickly and knocked his front wheel out of when he was on the 125, and he smacked his head into the ground pretty good and scraped up the helmet. And we immediately gave him another helmet, but I took that helmet back, and I have that helmet sitting in a glass case next to my desk to this very day.
Dude,
I
look
awesome. At that thing. I was like, what? And that's my only time at Hallett. And I brought two things back. I brought that helmet back, and in a glass mayonnaise jar, I brought back a big tarantula that I kept for like 5 years, and I fed it crickets and everything.
And he was still alive? Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I fed it crickets. They stayed alive for many years. I think one winter it got a little too cold, and it didn't make it to the Maryland winter, but it lasted for several years. But that was my trip to Hallett. But it was
Freddie Spencer helmet deal went down at Hallett. I love it.
I love it. What a story.
Yeah. And he was an amazing, and you just could see him that weekend, realize, wow, this is some unearthly talent. There's nothing like, I don't know, it was from like 14 or something, 15, 14, 15.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe 15, 16, I don't know. Yeah, he looked like he was 12 because Freddie looked very young. When Freddie was like 21, he looked like he was like 14 years old. So, but a Honda MT125 is an air-cooled 125 GP bike that weighs about 100 pounds, and a Suzuki GS 750 is like a tugboat. And to race all that in between, and TZ 750s and 250s, I don't know how anyone could ride all those different things.
Oh, he's an absolute legend. That just speaks volumes of the talent he had to be able to adapt to each one of those motorcycles, because each one of them, as we all know, take a different type of riding style approach to braking and cornering and all that stuff.
Imagine going off of an air-cooled 125 onto a TZ 750 4-cylinder 750
right?
Water-cooled. And that Suzuki 750 bike was like just a boat anchor. I mean, that's just I don't know how. And he destroyed in every class. I never saw anything like it in my entire life. It was just amazing. His father was just amazing, because his father was the mechanic that did all the work on all those bikes. I don't know how he did it, because they're all so different and so many of them. And you look today, you have like one bike has like 5 mechanics on it, and Freddie's father was like one guy working on like 12 motorcycles and keeping them all going and tuned and working. And the one great thing is Freddie wasn't a crasher, so at least he wasn't like rebuilding the crash bikes all the time. But his father was an amazing guy.
I mean, but nowadays you got to have 5 people working on a bike because all the technology and gyroscopes and telemetry and yada 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 that goes along with it. It's not simple carburetors and reed valves and valve adjustments, right? But one question I do have for you, Rob, starting Bison, getting into the industry, how did you guys pick a supplier? With all these other suppliers out there talking about they're legit, y'all know they're not. How did what work went in behind that, and how did you guys succeed to do it?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, Chris. We got really lucky because we started with the supplier that, like I said, that first run of suits, they were decent, but there was inconsistencies in them, and there were some things we weren't happy with, and we were still working with that factory to kind of improve things. But there was a language barrier, and that's usually what you run into. Language barriers, a little bit difficult to communicate. And I happened to have somebody get in touch with me, and I had some friends that had been in the industry prior with competitors, and they'd kind of been soured on the industry. So they're like, if you ever need advice or, my black book or whatever, let me know. So when this factory reached out to us and they sent us photos of things that weren't, Alpine Stars Dainese ripoffs, they were actually branded with their things. And they said, this is our factory, this is our company and our line. I said, okay, well, it seems legit, did some research. And then I met with the factory rep, who's second generation. Like Michael said, it's always a family thing. So dad started the factory, son is now, running the factory, and his brother. And so anyway, met with him down in Dallas when the IMS was in town, and we met at the hotel, Marriott downtown Dallas, in the conference room, and he had zippers and leather and Kepler Tech and everything laid out on the table. We went through everything, inspected it, and had a sample made, and then it was worlds better. No language barrier, none of that. And like Michael said, it's rare to find somebody in the industry that rides a motorcycle in Pakistan. Pretty much everybody's in it to make money. It happens that our factory guy actually rides and loves this industry, and he's passionate about it. In fact, we went and did Thailand moto tours. It's a year ago today, which is really upsetting because I should be in Thailand right now doing Thailand moto tours, but couldn't make it happen. But
I'll take you on a Thailand motor tour.
So good. Yeah. So when we went last year, Hamad from the factory, he came and met us, and he rode with us in Thailand for a week. And so, and then he came to Miami, earlier this year, and we went down to Miami and met with him and another guy. And so, he's passionate about the industry, actually rides, and that's really cool. So, and you have to have a symbiotic relationship with the factory because we want them to be successful. I'll be honest, we could get our stuff probably much cheaper than what we get it for from our current supplier, but our margins are decent, they're good, and we want them to be successful. The side note to that is that we want them to take ownership when they make a mistake. And a lot of factories don't do that. We were working with a factory that when we first started our air suits, our current factory did not have experience making air vest compatible suits. And they said, well, we can do it. And I said, yeah, I know, but I don't want to be guinea pigs, right? Let's take some time to develop it. In the meantime, I found a factory that made air suits for several different well-known companies. And I said, listen, I need a Tech Air compatible suit, and it's got to be good. I've seen your stuff. And he said, yeah, no problem. The problem was 2 things. One was they were making our suits, our Bison suits, exactly the same as the other brands that are all in the Moto America paddock. So you'd see our Bison Thor Point 2 air hide suit next to this other brand, and you could see they were the same, except for the protectors and stuff. And I said, guys, I need the suit made this other way. And I didn't like the way they were putting shaping foam in the shoulders and the knees and the arms, and it had gooey mess behind it. If you had to repair that, clog up the needle, it was heavy, it was hot. You look like a linebacker in it. I said, I don't want any of the shaping foam. I don't want the panels like that. They need to be like this. They said, well, that's just the way we make it. I said, okay, well, I'll deal with that for now. But then they sent us a run of suits that all had issues. There's about a dozen suits, and they all had the same problem, fitment problem. So somebody on the pattern line clearly made a mistake. And I said, listen, 10 of these 12 suits do not fit the wearer, and we've confirmed the measurements. We have found that there are variances in the suits all in the same area. So I need them remade. And they said, no, well, we didn't make that mistake. It's clearly you. And I said, well, if I'm submitting the same measurements, it's not me, it's you. So we need to figure this out. And they said, well, it just is what it is. You're going to have to buy 10 more suits. So done. That was it. That was the last straw. With our factory, they do a really good job owning up to mistakes. We have actually Grover Crawford from Sage Tailoring. He and Kim own Sage Tailoring. Grover is on our staff now as our quality specialist. So he and I have meetings weekly. He communicates with the factory on any common issues that we're seeing. And then my mother and father-in-law, Kathy and Ron, back at the Bison HQ, they quality control every item that comes through. So we catch what we would see, repeat issues. We catch them quickly, communicate those to the factory, make a change if we need to, figure out who on the production line is messing up, or if there's a supplier issue. Let's say that we have an issue with the thread. What's going on with the thread, or is there a sewing machine that needs adjustment? As we're seeing a seam issue. So anyway, we're really fortunate that that's how our relationship looks with our supplier, and that's why I'm not ashamed to say, hey, our stuff comes from Pakistan. I don't care. If you want my supplying factory name, I don't care. It doesn't. You could go to the factory and get a suit from them, and that's your prerogative. But you don't have you're not going to save a whole lot of money in the first place. But then also you don't have the backing that protections and warranties that you have going through Bison.
Well, you have all the communications issues too. So.
Correct. You let us handle all that, right? So.
With all that being, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I should say that custom suit business, why most companies don't get into it, is because it's just a nightmare of hard work. I mean, you have to have someone like what Robert's doing to just like what Josh did at Pilot or what Todd did at Heroic to just like make your whole life about it. It's very interesting to see like Revit and Denisi dunk their feed into it, although they're doing it with like specialized parts of the company just mainly for marketing reasons, because they've never been interested in it because it's just a nightmare of hard work. And
it is. Nightmare is a great word for it.
we Robert, I was telling this to Chris before you came on the air, when if I look at the peak year when I was doing AGV Sport in the US, probably half of all the suits that we produce in the United States, custom suits, were for sponsored riders, because we never did it for a commercial reason because it was too much work. And when I say sponsored riders, that's not like a discount. That means that's someone that's sponsored, like Miguel de Hamel, Matt Madden, some sponsored rider.
Yeah.
So I can't. When I look at what Josh did at Pilot or Todd or you, it's like I know what that takes, and not very many people want to put in that kind of effort. It's an unimaginable amount of work to create a custom suit. Everyone is a unique product. It's the opposite of Henry Ford's idea of the assembly line. It's like everyone is a unique, different product from every other one. Even if it's the same cosmetic design, looks the same, it's still not the same. It's still different. I watched one of your videos last night where you were talking about Kayla and sponsorships. I thought that was very interesting because I have a similar story with Matt Mladen, but on a little bit bigger financial scale. So Matt got a GP ride. He was John Kaczynski's partner on the Kajiva team, and he didn't have too good a year. A lot of Italian drama, and he was like the redheaded stepchild, and it didn't go well for him, and he lost the ride at the end of the year. He went back to Australia, and he had a really bad ultra light accident and shattered his ankle into like a gazillion pieces. Almost had to have his foot amputated. It was bad. And so he lost like a year. He was the Australian Superbike champion. He had that in his resume, but he lost a year because of his ankle injury. And he got a ride in the United States. And in the US, he was not, no one knew who Matt Mladen was unless they followed, GP racing. They knew that he was like the junior unknown Australian guy of the year on John Kaczynski's team. So we were doing very well in Australia, and my Australian distributor was the Speedy Dainese Alpine Star importer. And AGV had told me when I signed the deal with AGV, one of the first things they told me said, wherever you go in the world, don't ever try to sell in Australia, because Mons Imports, who's the AGV helmet importer, they're the Dainese Alpine Star Speedy importer. And nowhere in the world can any company even have 2 of those brands, let alone have all 3 of them. Only because of the unique things of Australia. Same reason they have platypuses and everything else, that they could get away with that. So as soon as AGV said that, I was like, I'm going to Australia, because then it was a challenge. You said I couldn't do it. So I went to Australia, and I loved the country. I loved the people. And I sat down and I saw what they were doing, but they were all sort of the same. They were all like expensive Italian brands, and Australian culture is much more similar to American culture in many ways than it is to Italian culture. And there was nothing really nice that was affordable. So I introduced a line of decent quality stuff, but that was like much less money, and it became very successful. And then they loved the guy that owned the company, a guy named John Chiodo. He was a very good racer himself, even in his 40s. He was like, could lap Phillip Island like an incredible, very good, very skilled rider. Mm-hmm. And he loved being around the race world. So he knew every Australian race that there ever was. He sponsored with AGV helmets or Alpine Star, Speedy or Day. But the Italians were cheap, so he couldn't get anything from, I don't think, from Dainese. And he only get a limited number from Alpine Star, but he could get anything he wanted from AG Sport, because I would never say no to him. So we ended up sponsoring like practically every famous Australian racer for like in the 90s. So when Matt came to the country, John called me up and said, hey, Matt's having, he's had a hard, couple of years, and he's coming to the US, and I know you don't, no one knows him there or anything, but could you help? And I was doing helmets too. I said, could you take care of him head to toe? I said, no problem. So we did it, and he had a decent year, and then he went to Faraci the next year. Then he came back to Suzuki, and he started winning all these championships. And he started making a lot of money, because we had him on a not small salary, but a big contingency for winning races and championships. He started making a lot of money. And sometime a year or two after 9/11, we were at the Las Vegas Suzuki dealer show, and he came to me. Because we made all the Hayabusa and GS6R jackets, so millions of dollars of Suzuki jackets.
Oh yeah.
And Matt came to, we made like every Suzuki GS6R and Hayabusa jacket for almost all the 2000s, until they got into financial trouble with their stupid cars.
Exactly.
Well, they went bankrupt because of the cars. So,
cars did them.
Yeah. So Matt came to me at the show. He said, I need to talk to you. And I said, all right, well, let's, at lunch, let's go downstairs. We're in the Mirage Hotel. So let's go down to the restaurant. We'll talk. And we went downstairs. He goes, Michael, I said, I don't know how to tell you this. Joe Rocket has offered me an insane, stupid amount of money. He said, I don't know where these people have been for like the last, it's like they didn't know that I was here like for the last 6 years. And he told me how much, I don't remember the amount, but it was like 5 times more that we were paying him then, which was like a lot more than what we were paying him when he started. So we had gone up and up and up and up. I was feeling a little uncomfortable because we were paying like so much money. And Joe Rocket only had to offer like $10,000 more. I would have said, Matt, go for it. And they offered him like $100,000 more. And I said, Matt, you can put like your girls through college when they get, he said, you got to do it. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why. It's insane. It's just, you're a great racer, but it's American Superbike racing. And that's like insane. So he thanked me a lot. And we stayed like really close for all these years. And then, the whole Joe Rocket thing blew up, and Joe Rocket's basically practically gone today. But Matt came back, and 2018, he started a superbike team in Australia. He came back to me and he said, "We sponsor the team." I said, "Of course we will." And then he's coming back now. He's doing some motorcycle tests, and then he's going to do some reviews. And so now we've made him all this gear, and it's like, and it reminded me of the Kayla story, because if you have a relationship with people and you respect them and you like them, and you understand at a certain point maybe you just can't afford them, you don't get nasty about it. You say, "Oh, you're not loyal." I mean, money's money. If someone offers you 5 times more, same thing happened with Steve Crevier in Canada. Joe Rocket offered him like 300% more. I said, "Steve, go for it. You're my friend." I like it. It's like, get it before they change their mind. Wake up.
Exactly.
Joe Rocket was just spending money like the federal government. They were just going crazy in 2000, 2002. They were just
early 2000s, man. Joe Rocket.
They're spending money like KTM is right now. That's why they in trouble.
Yeah. So anyway, so they're so I listened to your Kayla story. I said, "Yep, I know how that goes," but I could relate to that. But you can always find, there are always going to be companies like that will come in after you've brought the person up from not being known, and they then start winning, and then they're going to come in, "Oh, look at that person," just throw money at them.
Yeah. Just why you gotta treasure your time with them while you can. We've got a couple young guns right now that I know are being poached. They're already being wined and dined, and I'm like, "Oh, we just take as good a care of them as we can." And we've got that footage in the can of them riding with Bison when they were younger, and then they go on. It is what it is. But
yeah, I mean that's also part of the game too, right?
Yeah.
Because they see a future legend of the sport. Let's say Matt Chapin, right? Future legend of the sport, and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you blah blah blah." Of course, you can't say no, right? It's not. It's nothing against Rob. I love you, but we got okay, sure, no problem, because we want to see you succeed too, as well as us. It's that double-edged sword in our beautiful game. But with all that being said, Rob, I do have another question, man. When people approach you, obviously to get suits, and the stigma is it's made in Pakistan, so it must be uber shit, right? It's not. How do you get around that to bring them to come and buy a Bison suit, knowing that it is made in Pakistan, with all the stuff that's been going on in the bad image that they have brought to our sport?
So, well, a lot of it's just like preemptively educating people. So, like Michael said earlier, I've got blogs and videos out there. I'm very forthcoming with the fact that, these are the challenges with the Pakistani market, and this is the perception of the Pakistani market. Some of it is justified. Other is it's just kind of there, it's a stigma. People have talked about it and come to this conclusion that it's just all garbage. And that's not the case. So the main thing is when people come to us, if they're in person, it's very simple. We just show them the product, and you can see it right there. But that's also the reason that we wanted to get into Moto America as quickly as possible, because when we started looking at our marketing just after the first year, we grew very quickly in the Texas, CMRA market. So the Kansas to Texas corridor, which is why our company's named Bison, by the way. We said, okay, we're growing quickly here, but we need to expand outward. How do we show people what this product is and how it performs? The easiest way to do that in this market, if you're talking about track day riders and racers, is to put it on TV. So we got to get it on some Moto America riders for credibility. And if somebody crashes on TV, you see it. You see the replay in slow motion. You see him get up and get in the ambulance or get in the crash truck, and you can tell how that gear performed. So that really, I found that the first couple of years that we were in business, like I said earlier, it was like, who's wearing your stuff and how can I be sure I'm going to be safe in it? And then years 3 to current, it was, oh yeah, I saw, somebody had Dominic Doyle had this huge crash and got run over and he was totally fine. So that's what sold me on it, or whatever the case may be. So, it's getting ahead of that perception, trying to change that. And then just showing people in person what it does is kind of the biggest thing for me.
I think one of the things, and this is hard when you start out, is to have a collective experience, because looking at one accident does not mean anything.
Correct.
I remember being at Charlotte Motor Speedway when they still were crazy enough to race motorcycles there. And Scott Russell had a brand new Dainese suit when we were sponsoring him with helmets, and he crashed. I think in the horseshoe. It wasn't a very high speed turn, and the whole back of the suit split open.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean Dainese suits are no? Okay, it's a product that's made from an animal. There's no leather company. Every company will have a failure sometime. It's not possible. It's an animal. You can't do a genetic testing of every skin. And every company, if they're honest, will have a case like that. It's terrible when it happens. You feel horrible, but it's not possible to never have that happen. So what you want to look at is an experience. Okay, Robert's been out there for years now. There's a lot of his suits out there. So you want to look at what the pattern is, not what one particular. Because I hate reading like Reddit and stuff because people always give a good. Like I had a friend, he was run over by a dump truck. It was great. It's like, okay, that's idiotic. Or I had a friend and he fell off his bicycle and it ripped up. It just doesn't mean anything. You have to look at. I want to see 100 accidents, not one, because anything can happen. Someone can be lucky or someone can be unlucky in one accident.
Yeah, and it sounds so cliche to say every crash is different, but literally, I tell people all the time, like the little bikes, like we talked about earlier. Oh, it's just a 250. It's not going to hurt me. Or I'm just on a kart track on my Grom. I'm going to be fine. Those are the ones that bite you the worst. And the stresses even on the gear are completely different than crashing in the kink at Road America when you're going 160 miles an hour. That actually, when you slide on a suit, there's a lot less torque and friction, or there was friction obviously, but a lot less torque on the seams of the suit, for instance. So, I had a customer reach out last year at some point. He was upset because he crashed on the kart track and he was only going 20 miles an hour, and his knee on his suit opened up. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks. But do you have video of the crash, right? I see video of the crash and you can see, he's not going very fast, but as soon as his knee hits the ground, everything is so much torque on the suit. He's not sliding. It just grabs, right? And then it twists into a position where the Keprotec hits the asphalt, and then he's on his knees sliding and it opens the knee up. I'm like, well, any suit would have done that, and it sucks. And I know you weren't going very fast, but it's just a different set of circumstances. The type of pavement that you're falling on, how smooth.
That's what I was going to say. Because you could fall you could fall like at Kershaw at 20 miles an hour and go 5 feet and be ripped to shreds, or you could fall at Summit Point at 100 miles an hour and not even have a mark on your suit because you just slide forever. So,
little Tally and Barley.
Or you can fall off a big bike and get free of the bike and just slide, or you can fall off a small motorcycle and go underneath it and get trapped. I fell on my stupid Ninja 400 and went under the bike and broke my wrist in 2 places, and my whole arm got stuck under the motorcycle. So it's every crash is different. The surfaces are different. That's why you have to look at you have to look at a lot of different crashes over a period of time. If you've been, how long have 7 years you've been 7, 8 years? How long have you been around?
Yeah, about 8 years. Total.
So it's way long enough to know, the results. The first year's got to be rough though, when you're coming and you're doing it the first year, but you're way past that now. So.
Yeah, and we, of course, we don't take any situation lightly. If a piece of gear opens up, and especially if somebody's injured and comes to us with that information, we always appreciate that info because we do take it to heart. We look at it internally. We ask for all photos, videos, whatever you've got, because it can be easy to say, well, every crash is different, and these are all handmade items, and anything can happen, and failure is failure. And we do hear that a lot from the big companies. People will come to us and say, man, I told company X that their piece of gear came apart and they just said it is what it is. But for us, oh man, we lost our host.
I think he's doing a dog break.
Yeah,
I remember a crash that Matt Mladen had at Daytona with one of very expensive Italian suit, and the arm came open and he had injuries serious enough that he had to go over to Halifax, and you just feel terrible, and you always wonder wouldn't it mattered what suit it was? Was there something that could have been done differently? It's just a stressful part of, and the helmet business is even worse because then you're dealing with people that could have permanent injuries and brain damage or comas, and I've seen everything in the years I worked with AGV and with racers and everything. It's but
yeah, I can't imagine helmets. We have a KYT partnership and we work closely with them. We love KYT, and there was a situation a couple years ago with aware of a KYT helmet and CMRA, and it was a really, really tough situation. But honestly, I can honestly say there's no way in any other helmet the outcome would have been any different. And so you see some people retaliating on that situation, and it's hard for me I don't want to interject on it, but I look at it and I know, as somebody who's, gear connoisseur and very involved with the market, there's no way any other helmet would have been any different. And so,
people get killed in all kinds of helmets, and I don't care what Shoei or Rai or HEV or whatever it is. It's a dangerous sport, and it's protective gear, but there's no guarantee.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Welcome back, Chris.
Yeah, dude, my dogs. You heard. Yeah, right. I got it. Welcome to Pin the Gas, dude. It's an honor to be here, Rob.
Honor to have you, man.
Oh man, let's go.
Michael and I are the hosts now. We are the hosts. Look at us. We're the hosts.
I love it. Yeah, I got a new puppy, and she's started getting my older dog, and they started doing this. I had to kick her.
I'm disappointed that we haven't seen the puppy. I thought you would bring her.
I will when we get close to the end of this. Absolutely, okay, right. I will. I just want to say, man, I grew up in the industry. I've done a lot of racing and track days. Of course, I've been through a lot of suits. I've AGV, Day and Easy. I mean, you name it, I pretty much had them all except for a Spike and Vanson or whatever. And this is my first custom suit through Bison. When I approached Rob, I told him when I was ready to get into one. He was the company I definitely wanted to work with. To me, just speaking on Bison real quick, what separates them from everybody else in the industry, to me personally, is they're at every racetrack, and they take care of everybody. And if you have a mishap, you bring it to them, Sage Taylor, and they'll take care of you. They get you back out for your practice. Even if you're not in a Bison suit and you approach them, whatever you wear, right? AGV, somebody has an AGV suit, they come up, Robert and Tasha, man, they're going to take care of you to put you out there. And when I received my suit, I was through the roof. Like I'm so in love with my suit. I immediately put it on, walking through the house. My wife comes home and she's like, "The hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, girl, look at this. This is good." Right. But the fit and the finish and everything is been far superior to any suit I've ever owned. And I've owned a lot of them.
Appreciate that.
So I've been nothing but absolutely over the moon with it. Not just that, the gloves, I got the custom gloves too as well. Obviously you guys see my chest protector, got the undersuit, I got the whole nine. The only thing I did not get the opportunity to get is the new boots that Robin come out with, because they were still not really known yet, right? They haven't put them out there to the public.
They launch today.
Okay, well, we'll get into that here in a second. So that's the only thing that I don't have a Bison is my boots. So I wore Formulas is the boots that I have.
Good boots, yeah, those are nice.
Forma good. They used to make our boots.
So I just wanted to add that in there, how happy and satisfied I am absolutely with Bison. Even if I didn't know Robert personally or Tasha or Carter or Edith or any of them, right? It's all you got to do is show up to a Moto America paddock or a lot of club races, and you see a lot of them walking around in Bison, and there's a reason for that, right?
I appreciate that.
110%. So
Robert, I'm curious about something. So what was the first, you said you're 7-8 years old. What year of your business did you start making suits that were airbag compatible?
It was 20. So we started the business officially in 2018. And then 2019, we started going to airbag.
The second year. Okay.
Yeah,
so if you look at the sales 2019 until through 2024, what is the growth curve of the use of airbags, not at Moto America level, but like club racing level? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It increases every year. And I think a lot of that, there was a dip, because everybody had supply chain issues, just that couple years ago, and you couldn't even get Tech Airs. You couldn't get them repacked and everything. People were like, I'm not even going to mess with it. And so actually it kind of went up and then it stagnated or maybe even dipped a bit. But now I think, well, we sell more air compatible suits than not. We'll put it that way.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. And
now because I haven't, been in the U.S. market since about the time that you started. What's an airbag compatible suit? Can you wear that without an airbag, or you have to, or you really need to wear an airbag? So even if you don't have an airbag, it makes sense to buy an airbag compatible suit because you have the option of using it, where you can't use an airbag suit, and you can't use an airbag if the suit isn't made for it, obviously. So why don't you just make all of them with the airbag system and don't even make it an option to make it without it?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. The reason we don't is because our the Thor 1, or the suits that are not air compatible, there's it costs us less to make, therefore they cost less to purchase. And so we want to give that customer the option. There's a few things besides the air compatibility that set our Thor 2 apart from the Thor 1. Well, first of all, our airhide suits, you can wear several different air vests with the suit. So the attachment points are there for Tech Air, they're there for Helite, they're there for a Hit Air, even a tether vest, situation. When you open the suit, you see button loops and Velcros and zippers, and there's all these different attachment points for various vests. So that makes it a little bit more to produce, because it's not like we're just throwing zippers and Velcro in it. We're putting all these things in to be able to accept different vests. That way, if the wearer wants to change, or if there's a supply chain issue or anything like that, they have that flexibility to do so. But the other elements that set that suit apart from the Thor 1, all of the accordion in the Thor 2 has Kevlar behind the accordion, because that leather's thinner, in the flex points, and there's so much more of it. We wanted to increase the abrasion resistance, so we put Kevlar behind those panels. That cost us quite a bit more. And then there's just more accordion in general. Also, the inner liner is a little bit different. So there are things that add up to make that suit cost more, and we wanted to continue to give the option to those who didn't care.
Are many people still using systems that have a tether on them?
No. Really, over the last I'd say over the last couple of years, the tether vests really have fallen off in popularity. And part of the reason for that is now, Helite, which was one of the big tether, with the Turtle and Turtle 2, the big tether vests, names in the game, they now have an electronic version that goes inside the suit, and that's what we sell. That it's basically the shell that you'd see with the Turtle, but it has the cartridge in the back, and the computer and everything goes in the speed hump, and you can recharge it yourself trackside. But it's lightweight, and it floats underneath the liner, and it just buttons and Velcros to the suit. So it's a lot less intrusive, I guess I would say, than like the Alpine Star system. It's more like the Dainese system, and it's integrated into the suit, but it's, as the wearer, you can take it out, to clean the suit stuff, which you can't do with the D-Air. It's pretty much all stitched in there. So a lot more user-friendly. And so people, now that they have that option, are like, okay, I can, it's something I can recharge trackside. It's not this, hot, bulky Tech Air. A lot of people don't like that, myself included. It's a great product. I just can't stand wearing it personally. Any of them.
It's large. It's quite large.
It's the heat is the thing for me. I can't do the heat like I used to. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had a heat stroke or two. And so now at 44 years old.
What is the main difference between the Helite and the In Motion system?
So the In Motion vests, In Motion, obviously they make the vest for RST, Climb, Ferrigan, Held, etc. It's a great unit. That is a vest that you put on, you'll zip up. It has what they call a brain, a separate computer that clips into the back of that vest, and you have to have a subscription to it. Which there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do like a lifelong subscription, you just buy it out, or you can pay monthly. And so it gets a little bit convoluted. It's kind of complex when you first start. It can be overwhelming. By the way, if you go to our website, bisontrack.com, then if you go to blogs, there is a buyer's guide, AirVest buyer's guide. We update it every year. There's a ton of info there and a chart that kind of outlines all the pricing, the pros, the cons, to help you make your decision. But those and a motion vest are great, but you do wear them separately, and they're you have that big back panel, on the back with the computer in it. The Helite vest, the thing that's great about it is it's just that bladder. It integrates in behind the liner. So when you get your suit and you open it, you kind of don't even know it's there. The computer and everything's in the speed hump. There's a button on top of the speed hump. You press it 3 times, it lights up, it beeps, it tells you it's armed, and then you just throw the suit on and go. So it's a lot less work, I guess I would say, than having to put the vest on and all that. Plus, when you have the vest, it's zipped up, it's on your body. That's no air is flowing through that. Whereas with the Helite vest, because it's behind the liner, the zipper's open in the middle, and it floats between the liner and the leather, you still get airflow around it. And that, to me, is the biggest, benefit.
I think that subscription things is a little bit of a negative too. I saw that Ryan you ever watched the videos from Ryan at Fort 9 up in Canada? He really did not like the subscription service.
Oh, he did. I haven't seen that one.
Oh, he trashed them big time because it was terrible. I was like, oh, I wouldn't. That's a major channel to be getting that bad publicity. And there wasn't really anything physically wrong with the product. He just tore them up on the whole. I think it was basically like, it's like Facebook. If you write something bad, where they're going to terminate your subscription, because then you can't update. Then they could basically make the thing not functional because they have a billing problem or some kind of issue. It's like,
I saw an article. There's an article that somebody posted like on Track Day Junkies a couple years ago or something, and it was it said, this air vest. This motorcycle airbag manufacturer will turn off your protection if you don't pay your bill or something. That was the headline.
Yeah, I know.
And nobody read the article, but they were all like, "I'm never buying one of those." And I'm like, "Oh, geez,
Well, he probably watched Ryan's video because that's exactly how Ryan's video. Only Ryan's really good and does very professional videos. But you should watch it. It's quite. I was watching it thinking, oh, because I've been on the manufacturer side. I'm thinking, oh my god, I wouldn't want to be. It's like
exactly.
Years ago when John Ulrich got mad at Fieldshare and basically put him out of business. It's like, you don't want to get on the bad side of someone that's got a big magazine or YouTube channel or anything like that. It's this nightmare.
You're right.
Funny. All right.
Well, now in our industry too, it's mandatory in Moto America to have an air vest, right? So you can't even participate in Moto America without it. So
as of this year, if you're doing more than 5 rounds,
okay,
5 rounds, you don't have to have it. But
But in the future, I feel like it's going to be required for every round because of the safety component part of it, right?
Right. And a lot of the clubs are already talking about it. It's a trickle down effect all the time.
Of course,
it'll happen.
It will. It's my next suit from Bison's definitely going to be the Thor 2 with the airbag compatible. I chose not to get it because I'm not racing, right? I do track days occasionally, and I do small little like ROMs and got to parking lots and pretend I'm Rossi and everybody dragging my elbow thinking I'm cool with my own mind and all that cool stuff. So yeah, it's there's a lot to be said, with the future safety of our sport, right? Air vests, leather suits, boots and gloves have, far advanced than what they used to be Barry Sheen and Giacomo Agostini day. Back then they were just like goggles with basically a leather football helmet. Right.
Yep.
But I also see the future of our helmets too to need to progress more than what they have been. They're kind of the same Kevlar composite shell, a rye you can stand on it, yada yada yada, all this stuff. Maybe one day we might have an airbag system in the helmet. I don't know. But yeah, man, it's our sport is such a small, beautiful circus, right? Amongst everything else in the world. I would love to see, further technologies come into the sport. But one question, forget all the technologies, is Robert, with this whole new boots you got out right now, right? How hard was it for you to come up with the right structure, right? Because boots are very important. A lot of boots, you can grab it by the heel and squish it in. It's like, well, that's not going to save you if the bike lands on you. You're going to break your heel and your ankle and all that good stuff. So how long had these boots been in the making to come up with the product you have now?
We did a bunch of boot prototypes over the last 7 years. It's been most requested product, custom boots specifically, and done a lot of prototypes. And frankly, all of them were garbage, complete garbage. And so it's just a matter of finding a supplier that could execute what we needed to execute, getting a prototype made that we said, okay, this is decent, and then tweaking it a little bit. My son, Carter, we got him the first pair of Bison branded boots, that we were like, okay, these are going to be decent. We got him for Christmas last year. And Carter and I now, he's 17 now, we wear the same size shoe. We're a 9.5. So the ulterior motive there was, here, son, you got boots for Christmas that match your suit and your KYT Bastianini helmet, your gloves. So you got the whole kit now. It's awesome. But I also need to wear those. So Carter and I were switching them off and wearing them. We even did a 5-hour endurance race at Hallett. And when he got off the bike, he took the boots off and I put them on and then got on the bike and went back out. Like, that's what we were doing with him. And we beat him up for a few months. And then we got to the Ridge about mid-season for Moto America, and up there by Seattle or in Washington, and Hawk Mazzotta came by, and he races hooligans and stuff, and Hawk said, "Those Bison boots?" I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Dude, can I wear those for warm-ups?" He tried them on, and he's like, "These fit me perfect." He goes, "Can I wear them for warm-ups?" I said, "Yeah, sure. They're prototypes. Just be aware." He's like, "No, it's fine. I just want to wear them for warm-ups." So he goes out in his Roland Sands Indian, burgundy, gold, black suit with these teal and pink boots on. And you see photos on his social media. It looks hilarious. But he wore warm-ups. He's like, "Dude, I want to race in these." I said, "You can wear. That's great. Fine." He proceeded to wear them all weekend and then took them home with him and then brought him to Laguna Seca for the next round. And he's like, "Dude, I'm sorry. I still have Carter's boots. Can I wear them for this weekend?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead." Well, he still has those boots. And Carter never got him back. So I owe Carter a pair of boots. And we always joke. Every time I talk to Hawk, I'm like, "Stole my kid's boots. You know this, right?" So anyway, we got him his own all gold ones now, but he loves them. And so what we did was, once all three of us had put that one pair of boots through the ringer, we said, okay, these are decent. Now we made some changes. We then offered them to our rider ambassadors, our Bison ambassadors, and our sponsored racers, and said, we're going to pick 15 of you that we're going to have you try these boots, but we need feedback. Like in 30 to 60 days, we need your initial feedback and then ongoing thereafter. And so we did that. And based on that feedback, which was overwhelmingly positive, we made some small changes from there. And now we're ready to go on them. So we're going to drop them today on the website. So
I love it. I love it. It's so are they made in the same factory as the suits are?
They're not, but it's kind of it's an affiliation. So through them, they are aware of this company. This company only does boots, which is great. And we are working with our factory, kind of in conjunction with that one. So we have one point of contact, and they're able to help us logistically a little bit and make a little bit of money on it. Margin's still good. So symbiotic.
Yeah, Chris, I would tell if someone is buying stuff from people on the internet and they're buying boots, and the guy says that he has a factory that's making boots and leathers or boots and gloves or boots and anything, you're dealing with a fraud right there, because boots are boots, and boots are only boots, and a boot company only makes boots. It's a unique product that has nothing to do with anything else. And you're a shoe manufacturer, and it's not related to making a glove or a leather or a pant or anything else. It's
one
hard.
thing and do it well. That's, kind of what we look at. So
there's more helmet companies in the world than boot companies. For some reason, boots are just not a simple, easy thing to make.
Not at all.
The helmet just sort of sits on your head, but the boot has the weight of your body in it. And it's just very hard to make a boot that actually is comfortable. It's not even the safety part that's the hard part. Lots of companies could make a boot that was safe. They just couldn't make a boot that would be comfortable to actually walk and wear it.
Yeah.
That's why the Italians have just dominated that for so long. They controlled the entire boot industry because they had the shoe industry there in northern Italy, and like all footwear, not just motorcycle boots, but anything, ski boots, roller, anything footwear, all came out of that area in Italy, not too far from where the leather factories were, and they just controlled the footwear industry. But it's a hard, it's a tough business.
Oh, 100%. You know, boots are just as important. A proper fitting boot is just as important as a proper fitting suit, as a proper fitting glove, right? I've been through my fair share of a shit ton of boots. You know, not naming any names, but a company, man, I ordered a pair. They were $600, right? Let's just be honest. You guys pretty much knew who I'm talking about. Got them.
My favorite boot.
Right.
However,
not mine. So I had you know, the little inner booty and all that. I go to put it on, man. It's like this much too big. I go put the boot on. It looks like I got Ronald McDonald feet on. They just don't fit. Send them back. They send me a smaller size. I wear a 10, right? They sent me a 9.5. Same thing. They were just as big as the 10.5 they sent me. I was like, you know, what's and on top of that, they're really not that comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So it took me for a long time. You know, boots are one of those things like gloves. It's there's no shopping mall you can go to and try on CDs and Revit, you know, all this boots and on all formulas and everything to see what fits you the best. You know, it's like we love guns here in America, right? It's like, oh, our concealed holster is the best holster in the world, and you done bought 30 holsters to see what fits you and suits you the best, right? Same thing with boots and gloves, man. It's important to have the right fitting gear, you know, and you got to be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, then 5 minutes on the bike, it's going to take your mind away from doing what you need to do to be safe and go fast versus on going, man, my feet are killing me right now, you know, or whatever the issue may be. So, it's very important to have a pair of comfortable boots, gloves, and your suit, right? And the undersuit too, as well, right?
All adds up. All adds together.
It does. For a complete package, 110%.
Travis mentioned, sorry, just real quick, because I see he asked about dealers. Yes, we do have dealers for Bison, but most of our products are direct to consumer, but we're always looking for dealers. So if you send us an email, info@bisontrack.com, then we can get you some, you know, we'll start a conversation about becoming a Bison dealer. Always looking for dealers, also trackside partners, you know, that might want to set up at events and like Chris, for instance. Yes.
I've been waiting. I want to so bad, but we'll
make all that happen. So feel free to hit us up on that one. And yeah, Mike, if you get some pictures of Hawk in his new gold boots, I don't have any pictures of him in the gold ones. He's all wearing the teal and pink ones, the stolen boots. So I need some pictures of him.
The runaway thief, Hawk Mazzata, we're coming for you. I love it, man. I love it. And Travs, when you hit Robert up, tell him Pin the Gas sent you.
That's right. I know.
Oh my God, I love it, man. This has been eye-opening conversation. We touched on a lot of points. Mike, do me a favor, send me those points you was telling me about at the beginning of the podcast, so I can add them in the descriptions, pointers for people to look at when they do get hit up, you know, every day by everybody. And people, you got to keep in mind too, they're not all bad, right? But with the questions that I'm gonna post up that Mike's gonna give me, it's it'll help you cut the grass to find the snakes, right, and point you in the right direction. But you guys already know what I'm gonna say. Bisontrack.com, right? Absolutely, 110%. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. So yeah, man. Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun. This will definitely be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all that good stuff. I'd love to be able to sit down again with you two gentlemen and continue this conversation in the future. Mike, in your opinion, what else can people look out for to weed through that right now, moving forward?
I would just say, ask a lot of questions, do a lot of research. But like I've mentioned a couple times before, the last place I would ask questions and do research on is Reddit. You can ask the manufacturers. You can use ChatGPT or DeepSeek. You just do some research and just use common sense. I don't care whether it's COVID or motorcycle gear. If you just are curious and just ask questions, you can see patterns and just use common sense to figure out, okay, that doesn't make sense. Okay, that's sort of all falling in line. If you ask 5 different manufacturers something and 4 or 5 of them come back and say the same thing, you're pretty sure that you're going in the right direction there. And that's where a lot of these direct sellers will fall apart because they don't know anything. They just know a price of something and what they're selling it for. They don't know anything about the use of the product or how it's made or anything. You start asking questions, they completely fall apart, or they answer randomly, and you'll see you're getting different answers from every different person, and nothing makes any sense. I'm sure if you call up Robert and you ask him questions, and you call the next day and the next day and the next week, you'll get the same answer all the time because it's based on some factual experience. It's not just being made up.
Yeah, and you know the question I get asked is how much did you pay for that? I'm like, what does it matter? Oh, I can do you one. You know, we talked about this earlier for $400. You know, blah 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 blah. It's that's a red flag automatically too when they ask you that. Well, how much did you pay for that? And you know, they don't even give a shit. I'd be like, dude, I'm an ambassador for Bison. Like, it's going to take an act of freaking God to get me away from there. You don't pay me $1 million. And Rob, I love you, bro, but we're going on a trip, baby, right?
There we are. Let's take it and run. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. But you know, it's man, it's just gotten out of hand, and I want to.
I love asking him. All the real businesses in Sialkot are all registered with the Chamber of Commerce there. It's almost like a country club kind of thing. It's more than just like a business thing. I mean, they all, like the airport in Sialkot it's very interesting. It wasn't paid for by the government. Even in the United States, I mean, you know, airports are pretty much funded by the government. In Sialkot, all the businesses got together. And the airport is a beautiful, modern international airport that was all paid for by all the companies in Pakistan. And they're very proud of it. And depending on how much money they donated is on the pecking order of where they're on the list of things. And so you get these people, you ask them, you registered with the Chamber of Commerce. Of course they're not. You ask them about who their insurance company is. Of course they don't have any. I mean, they can't answer any question that any normal business would have. You could ask most of them just to do a video call, and they wouldn't do it because they'd be sitting in a 1-bedroom apartment somewhere, and they don't even.
Oh yeah.
That would now some of them would have it, but a lot of them you'd weed a lot of them out that way.
I've got a couple great video call questions. We'll save those for the next episode. But been on some video calls like, wow, really? Like this is what you're showing me?
Yeah.
I love that video where you're talking about some of the factories, some of the factory conditions, because some of these smaller companies, I mean, you think you were in 50 years ago in like Africa or someplace to see the work conditions that these people, in this city in the summertime, it gets up to like 115 degrees. And these factories don't have air conditioning. At the best, they have big fans. So, I mean, the offices are, if they're a real factory, the offices are all nicely air conditioned, but I've never been in one of them where where the people sewing is air conditioned. Sometimes the really nice factories have giant industrial fans all in the walls, but I've never been in one of them that had air conditioning in them.
I'll tell you, our supplying factory, they're building a new facility right now. It's 4 stories, and the renderings are beautiful. They just broke ground on it, but it's supposed to have air-conditioned work facilities. So they're hoping that will bring in some workers from other,
I'm sure it will, because I've never seen one. I was visiting one of our suppliers. It's huge. They have 3,000 employees. I've never seen any place this big. I mean, it's like China big, and it's very nice. It's clean. It's modern, but there's no air conditioning. It's just giant industrial fans. And I'm thinking, and I was there when it wasn't too hot. I'm thinking, I cannot imagine. It gets so hot in Sialkot that the planes can't take off because the air density. They're loaded with soccer. Like every soccer ball in the world is made in Sialkot. Everyone in every country, every soccer ball is made. And they pack these cargo planes, British Airways, all of these Lufthansa, so heavy and leather is heavy, as Robert knows. So you fill planes with leather goods, and motorcycle stuff is relatively small. You got to remember that everything leather is made in Sialkot. Soccer balls, casual leather jackets, everything. Anything made out of leather, and you figure you take like a 767, a big cargo plane, just fill the thing up with leather, and it's like 118 degrees outside. outside, you can't take the thing off. It's full of jet fuel and full of leather. It can't take off. It's sitting there waiting for the temperature to come down. We can take off at nighttime when they can get some lift. So it's
we've run into that.
That's absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes into this podcast. Time always goes by fast.
Yeah.
When you have a great conversation. Listen, I'm gonna let you two end the podcast as I do all my friends. But first thing I gotta say before we get off here is, man, thank you guys so much for coming on. It's an absolute honor always to sit down with my friend Robert and my friend Michael. This has been eye-opening. I hope everybody that listened to this learned a lot from it. And if you missed it, you can go back to my YouTube channel and rewatch it as soon as I end it. And tomorrow it'll be out everywhere. But thank you guys and girls so much for watching the podcast. Nothing but love to every single one of you guys and girls. If you hadn't had a chance, please go to my Spotify, iHeart, YouTube. You guys know the drill. Hit that like and subscribe and the bell to ding, ding, ding. So every time a new Pin to Gas comes out, you get notified and you can tune in right then and there, right? Big shout out to Next Level Financial. Obviously, big shout out to my man, Bison, bisontrack.com. Love yourself. Get yourself a full custom suit. You deserve it. Even if it's not an airbag, get you a custom suit. Trust me. Big shout out to Chef Eats, TST Industries, theclothingkings.co.uk, Superbike Supply, SFL Mini GP, RD Racing, my man Jake Marsh out there in BSB, Vet2 Track, Flying Eyes Optics, 64 Degree Racing, Ghetto Customs, Carnes Performance, KYT Helmets in America. Man, I sound like a robot right now, right? K-Tech Suspension, big shout out to my man Birch, Kendall, and Dakari. RTR, Ready to Race in North Carolina. Coleman Power Sports out here in Virginia. McLeo Escape, Tracks and Tours. Road Racing World. I need everybody to go to roadracingworld.com. Go to the funds. Please donate to the air fences. It's imperative we have them at our tracks. Dude, if we don't have them in the corner marshals in the ambulance, guess what? We're not going track day riding or racing at all. Big shout out to STG, Drip and Wet. Venom undersuits, a leaky, right? As Robert says, absolutely amazing products. V121pro.com. My buddy Mike, the Spike Edwards, is a 6-time BSB champion, does a lot of riding coach out there. So any of my UK friends want any type of coaching, look no further than that. And last but not least, man, big shout out to BTR, Build Train Race, Royal Enfield in Moto America. Their program to me is one of the best we have. For what they do. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, thank you guys and girls so much. Robert, tell everybody where they can find you on social media, bisontrack.com, all that good stuff.
That's right. Just look at Bison_track on most of the most social media channels, Bison Track. On others without the underscore, you'll find us. And then my personal one on Instagram is the Leathers Guy. So if you want to see what goes on behind the scenes, there you go. Of course, bisontrack.com for the orders. Place your order, and then we pair you up and get you measurements and design started one-on-one with one of our gear customization specialists. Try to make it fun and easy.
It's absolutely super simple. That's what I tell all my friends. My buddy that actually got a suit from you guys who was at Jersey, he had called me up and was like, bro, I need a new suit. I'm like, bisontrack.com. I mean, it's super simple. It's easy. They walk you through the steps. It's 1, 2, and next thing you know, your suit comes in the mail and you're all smiles and happy walking around it in your leathers, and your wife comes home. She's looking at you like, what the hell are you wearing? You're like, look at me, girl. I look good. She's like, no, you don't. But anyway, my wife said as soon as she sees it, she said, wow, you are super bright. I was like, I am bright. That's right. I am. I love it. I love it. And Mike, listen, absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Can't wait to sit down and do a solo podcast with you. Tell everybody, obviously, where they can find you and AGV Sports and all that good stuff.
Well, if you're looking to contact me directly, it's the easiest way to find me is just go to my name, Perrott.com. It has all my contact information there, because I don't know where in the world I'm ever going to be. And the only way to contact me is just to follow through one of the social media accounts, because that's not possible to ever track me down in a single location. But I really have enjoyed being on the show. It's been great to talk the last month and a half with Robert and get to know everything that's going on, and he introduced me to you, and it's I hope that we've given some information here that's helpful to people.
Yeah, we'll definitely sit down, us three, and do a part two and retouch base and even take it even further, right? As more issues will arise, right, out of this whole fiasco. We just want to get people aware and not to get you know avoid the black market counterfeits of what these guys are doing, or girls, or whoever it is overseas, counterfeiting everybody's products and selling bad shit to everybody.
And I'll send you this list of questions within 15 minutes as soon as we're finished. I'll just type it up and send it to you.
Awesome.
And then what I'll do is I add it into the post, and when they check it on Spotify, I'll heart and all that good stuff, it'll all be in there. And Mike Duran, yes, listen, everybody, there was a lot of questions that come in. I'm sorry we didn't get to hardly any of you guys and girls. I love you guys so much. And thanks for watching. Mike Duran, I had him on my podcast. He's a professional photographer. He's been in the industry, in the business.
Let's follow him on the gram.
Yeah, dude, he is absolutely an amazing human being. And there's when you look at photos, you scroll through a book and there's that one you look at, you're like, holy shit, it just reaches out, it grabs you, it speaks to you, right? Mike is that type of
nice
photographer that he grabs you on all of them. So guys, you go to his Instagram at Mike Duran Photography and give him a like, give him a follow. And he works a lot with the Super Camp that he'll be there coming up soon. So if you're there, stop by, say hi. And
that is a lot of fun.
The Super Camp, right? Yeah, I actually had.
I never had so much. I've done that camp so many times. That is just a blast.
Yeah, so big shout out to Danny Walker, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Super Camp. Yeah. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely amazing. And yeah, man, listen, this has been a lot of fun. Rob, me and you will definitely get on the phone and chat it up about everything else. Mike, absolutely. We will I got your number now, so we will text back and forth. Me and you'll set up a date and a time, and then we'll all come together and do it again. It's been a lot of fun, gentlemen. It's been an absolute honor to have you both on Pin the Gas podcast on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much.
Back at you. Thank you, guys. Right.
Absolutely. Thanks. All right, let me end this. Hang on, you guys just hang on for a second. Yeah. I got a new outro. Check this.
Calling all two-wheel enthusiasts, get ready to rev up your earbuds with Pin the Gas podcast, the ultimate motorcycle racing podcast, hosted by Chris Simcoe, one of our very own excellent leaders here in Roanoke, Virginia. With expert analysis, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive writer interviews, Pin the Gas podcast delivers the adrenaline rush of the racetrack straight to your ears. Whether you're a diehard fan or a curious newcomer, you'll gain insights that will transform how you watch and understand motorcycle racing. On your favorite podcast app, join Simcoe as he takes you on a high-speed journey through the world of motorcycle racing. Pin the Gas podcast.